Okay, third grade, so we have been working on rounding all week, and we're going to continue to do so. And we have worked on rounding to the nearest 10 the last 2 days. Today, we're going to round to the nearest 100. So let's think about the number 132. Okay, so 132. How many hundreds are in 132? If you look at that place value, at that digit, you can see that there's 100 and 132. So I've got my number line, and I'm going to show you both ways to do it. So if we do it by a number line, there's 100 and 132. What is 1 more than 100? Or 100 more than 100? So 1 more than 100 is 200s, or 200. And then just like we did when we were rounding to the nearest 10, we need to find our halfway point. And so halfway between 100 and 200, or what's halfway between 100 and or 100s and 200s, is 150. Now, remember, just like when we were rounding by 10, the rules still apply. Any number that's above the halfway point rounds up. Any number that's less than halfway rounds down. Or we have our song. Same thing applies. Okay? So let's think about the number 132. Is 132 below 150 or above 150? If you said that it is below 150, you would be correct. So 132 would round down to 100. Now remember, there's the other way that we can do it, which was to think about our song. So when you round down, down you go, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. When you round up, up, it's nice like 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So when we are rounding to the nearest 100, we underline the digit in the hundreds place. We circle the number next door. Does that 3 have power? Does it round down? When you round down, down it you go. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yep, no power. So that 3 is just going to go away. It just, whoop, goes away, flies away. So it can't change that 1. So that 1 stays 100. Okay, let's try the number 250. So in the number 250s, we're rounding to the nearest hundred. So let's underline the digit in the hundreds place. There are how many hundreds in 250? 200. So I'm going to label that on my bottom line. What is 1 more hundred than 200s? 1 more than 2 is 300s. And then I have to think to myself, what is halfway between 200 and 300? If you said 250, you are correct. So now I can place my number on my number line. 250, well, it's directly in the middle. This is one of those that can kind of be tricky, but you have to remember, when you round up, up, it's nice 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So I've circled the number next door to that 2. Does that 5 have power? Does it round up? It certainly does. So this number is going to go up to 3. And the other numbers on any time we round to the nearest 100, all the rest of the numbers become zeros. So that number rounds up to 300. Let's take the number 387. We're rounding to the nearest hundreds today. So now you're going to pay really close attention to the directions to find out if you're rounding to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100. So let's underline the digit in the hundreds place. How many hundreds are there in 387? There are 3 hundreds, or 300. What is 1 more than 3 hundreds? 1 more than 3 is 4 hundreds, or 400. And then we find our halfway point. What's halfway between 300 and 400? If you said 350, you would be correct. So anything that's at or above halfway goes up, below halfway goes down. So we circle the number next door to figure out if we're going up or down. 387. We placed it up here, that 8. When you round up, up, it's nice 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So that 8 would be up there. So it's going to go up to, it's going to make that 3 go up to a 400. Now, what if, boys and girls, what if we took this number, this 387, and instead of it being 387, we were rounding 1,387 to the nearest 100. So this time in the number 1,387, how many hundreds are there in 1,387? There are, you said it, 13 hundreds now. So instead of having 300s, I'm going to have 1,300. What's one more than 1,300? If you say 1,400s, you are correct. And then what's halfway between 1,300 and 1,400? 1,350. Look what all that I did, boys and girls. Let's just add that 1 for the thousands place. I didn't have to change anything else on any of my numbers. So I'm still rounding to the nearest hundred. So I still underline my digit in the hundreds place, circle the number next door. When you round up, it's nice for 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So that 8 still stays above halfway, so it still is going to go up. But this time, instead of it being 400, we can't forget to write our 1 for that thousands place. That stays there. So now it's going to round to 1,400. Everything on the other side of the number I underline becomes zeros. But everything on this side stays the same. So let's take the number 1,582. We're going to round to the nearest 100. So we have to figure out how many hundreds in 1,582. It's not just 500s because we have this 1,000 there. Now it's 1,500s or 1,500. What's one more hundred than 1,500? One more than 15 is 1,600s or 1,600. And then what's our halfway point between 1,500 and 1,600? Is 1,550. I think you're probably seeing that all of our halfways have ended in 50 today. Now we can look at our number. So we underline our digit in the hundreds place that we're rounding to. We circle the number next door. When you round up, it's nice for 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Is this an 8 or 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? It sure is. So it's going to make this number go up to a 1,600. Remember that 1 stays there. We make this 5 a 6. And then these two numbers both become zeros. Everything to this side of the underline stays the same. Everything on this side becomes zeros. Okay, let's try another example. Let's look at 2,146. So we're rounding to the nearest 100, but there's not just 100 in this number. There's 2,100 there. Okay, what's one more than 2,100 or one more than 21 is? 2,200s. So now we've got to figure out what's halfway between 2,100 and 2,200. 2,100 and, you guessed it, 50. So remember, let's look at the number next door now. Okay, so we underline the place value we're rounding to, the hundreds, and we look at the number next door, that 4. Does it go up? Is it a, when you round up, it's nice for 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Nope, it's not a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. When you round down, you go for 4, 3, 2, and 1. I said those the opposite way, or 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that 4, which is right here, is going to make this number go down. It doesn't have any power, so it just kind of goes away. And it goes down to that 1. And the rest of the numbers become 0. But I cannot forget that 2. That 2 has to stay the same. So 2,146 will round down to 2,100. Okay, so we're going to do one last example. Let's take a look at this number, 3,245. Rounding not to the nearest 1,000, but the nearest hundreds. We underline that digit. How many hundreds are there in 3,245? There's not just 200s, there's 3,200. What is 1 more than 3,200? 1 more than 32 is 3,300s. And then we look in the middle. What is halfway between 3,200 and 3,300? 3,250. Yeah, all of our numbers have ended in 50 for the halfway point, haven't they today? So we look at that number. So we've underlined the digit we're rounding to, that 2. And now we're going to circle the number next door because this is the one that really tells us if we're going up or if we're going down. So when you round up, it's nice for 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Not a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. When you round down, down you go. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we go down. So we're going down to 3,200 because this 4 doesn't have any power to give it to anything, so it just goes away. But remember, everything on this side of the underline becomes zeros. Anything on this side stays the same. There are some pages for you to practice rounding to the nearest 100. Not the nearest 10 today, it's the nearest 100 today. But there might be some sneaky 10s in there. And then there's an assignment for you to do. And if you have any questions, make sure you reach out and ask Mr. Rush or I.